Good evening, everybody. How are you doing today? Good evening, everybody. How are you guys doing today? I can see our guest for tonight is here already. Mr. Gabriel, talk to Gabo. Nice to meet you, sir. Welcome, sir. Hello, Grace. Welcome. Hello, Titi. Hassiz, welcome. Welcome to our live session. So today, we'll be talking about a very, very important topic, which everybody has been asking questions about for a very long time now, right? What is remote work, right? How can I actually make money from this remote work? And since I'm not an expert at remote work, I am definitely not an expert. I decided to call in an expert to come join us today and give us an example of what this remote work is and how to actually make money of it. So please be patient while more people join the group. As more people join the live session, we'll start, okay? So like I said, today we're talking about remote work with our guest, Mr. Gabriel, and he is a remote work expert from Luxembourg. He's more of an expert in this than I am and has more information about this, and is here to share his knowledge with members of our community today. So I want everybody to come in, join, share this live with your friends, share with everybody you know that's interested in remote work, because today is going to be filled with a lot of information. Okay? Mr. Gabriel, are you available? Please wave or something. Today we're talking about remote work. Mr. Gabriel, if you can hear me, please signify so we can join. Like I said, today we're discussing remote work and how to make money out of it. It's a very, very vital topic, very, very vital issue, especially now as Nigerians, due to the need for us to make money. There is a very vital need for us to make money right now, and right now remote work gives us the biggest opportunity to do that. So due to the lot of messages I've been getting about how can I get into remote work, what are the steps I need to take, I decided to do this live session for us so that we all get information about remote work and how we can achieve financial freedom through this means. Okay? So how's everyone doing? Okay, perfect, Mr. Gabo. Nice to meet you. So let me add you now to the live. Okay, so I just added you. So we can start. Hello, sir.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Gabo. Mr. Gabriel, my brother. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm
How's it
doing
going?
great, sir. Great. So far, so good. How's your weekend coming?
Yeah, it's been a very long one, but it was really productive. A couple of things I had to do early hours of the morning. So, yeah, it was quite a busy one, but yeah.
I'm happy you were able to join us here, even with the busy weekend. Thank you so much for gracing us with your presence. I hope at the end of this session that a lot of new people would understand more about remote work and how they can actually make money, how to do better from this opportunity that is available now. Looking at the Nigerian economy and the recent increase in our minimum wage, where it was taken to 70,000, with the entire 70,000, it's not up to $50, right? It's very difficult for Nigerian households to survive at this point. So this is an opportunity for us to find new ways to make more money and increase our income. Okay? So can you please tell us about yourself, Mr. Gabriel?
Okay. First and foremost, thank you very much, Frederick, for having me on this platform. I'm really honored and privileged to be here. and welcome everyone to this live. I am Gabriel, also known as the finance catalyst. So, what I am known for is I try as much as possible to, get to make people aware about personal finance. How they can make money from, how they can build wealth, how they can create value for their money from several aspects, cutting across financial literacy. So that's what I practically focus on. However, I'm also I'm based in Luxembourg, like you already mentioned. I've been here for about 8 years now, and I also run an academy, FinTax Academy, that is geared towards financial literacy, as well as I'm also working for a fund administrator who has a broad experience within the fund accounting, financial services space. So it's more of the private equity, real estate, as well as funds and hedge funds. So I also have a bit of exposure into the job market, especially when it comes to the area of remote work, which we're actually talking about today. So that's basically it about me for now.
Thank you so much. As you can hear from him himself, you could hear that there's a lot of experience, not just in remote work, but in financial literacy, right? He's one of us, is one of us whereby our goal is to spread financial literacy to as many people as we can. Our goal is to make sure that the next generation are more literate with their finances, right? They spend their money wisely, they invest right, instead of just flexing today, forgetting tomorrow, instead of just gambling money away like the normal Nigerian mentality, right? Live today, right? This is an opportunity for us to help the next generation. So that's why we're here. So thank you so much for coming to our live session today. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
My pleasure. Thanks.
Right. So how long have you been into remote work, right? And what's your experience so far?
So actually, the remote working space for me I've been more into this area since end of 2021. After the more or less, we had the COVID pandemic, and moving into the post-COVID era. So after that period, there was a lot of things that happened during that period. Obviously, having the situation of people, having the possibility of even losing their jobs because of the fact that most companies, they were not sure what the future was holding for them, in terms of, they didn't know what impact the COVID-19 pandemic would have on their businesses. So this really affected some of the amount of people that were actually already employed, as well as the amount of people that were being hired. So most people lost their job as a result of this particular situation. So that was when the whole idea of the remote working started, right? So I've been in this, I've had some exposure and experience into some of these things, starting from from 2021 up until now. And the experience has been kind of mixed because obviously remote working is something that has not been in existence, or even if it was something that was known, it was not really exposed. It was not accepted. This only started after the post-COVID era. So it's still something that is building, but I think that's the future. That's where it's going to, where people tend to be more free to, work from wherever they are all around the world and, earn their money. So, so far the experience has been quite good. It's been quite good, I would say. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. It's very, very important that we are able to share those experiences, right? Well, you said it has been mixed so far. So by mixed, what has been your, let's say, most negative experience with remote work so far?
Okay. Let's just backtrack a little bit.
Okay.
Because we are financial experts, so I like dealing with numbers.
True.
So I would want to give some kind of statistics. So in 2021, that was when the whole remote working policy started, right? After the COVID in 2020, after the COVID situation. So now, as at 2021, when we look at the numbers, there were about 37% of people working remotely,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
As of 2021.
Yes.
Now, it will amaze you to know that as of this year, 2024, according to the recent list that was released by Forbes, that number has dropped to 17%.
Oh.
So what does that mean? It means that the remote working space is becoming more and more competitive, right? Because we are now you are not dealing with let's just take some other numbers. When we had I had a kind of research, I also discovered that 9% of remote working jobs is what is currently available, as to 13% of people that are actually in search of that job.
Okay, so there are less jobs than people available.
Exactly. So there are less jobs, but there are more people that are going for that job, right? So what does that tell you? It means that the remote working space is actually getting more and more competitive. So why I said it's a bit of mixed feeling is because there are several laws, there are several things that are now getting into the mix that makes it more competitive, right? So now, as an individual, how do you distinguish yourself?
Yeah.
How do you? That's where profiling comes into play. How do you distinguish yourself in such a way that, because just the same way you're looking for that remote working job, someone else is busy looking for that same job.
The same job, the same work.
And it's a big headache for recruiters, for recruiting or hiring managers, because imagine you are receiving 20,000 CVs a day, resumes a day, and some of these resumes are more or less having similar sort of profiles, experience. How are they able to, and if it's just one person for that particular position, how are they going to be able to pick someone from that from that pool? Yeah, so someone has to distinguish that. What I'm trying to say, like, someone has to distinguish his or herself in such a way that his profile becomes the one that is accepted, right? So in as much that the remote working space is something that is gradually growing, because when we talk about remote, it's quite broad in a way, because there are several policies that are linked to remote working. There are remote workings that you would do that you have to work from a particular remote location. There are some kind of remote work you would do. You cannot just work from it. You are not permitted to work, like there's one that you do. You're not permitted to work outside that particular location. Okay. Why? There are some that you are actually doing from anywhere. Anywhere, right? Yeah. So what I'm trying to say there is there are some jobs, some companies that don't really allow you to work from multiple remote locations. So you have to just choose one remote location and you work from that remote location, right? So when I look at all these things and I put them into perspective, it kind of gives me the bigger picture that, of course, it's not perfect yet, right? But we are gradually getting to a place where most companies will start having to go fully remote, right? Right now, most companies are still like either working through the hybrid working model, where you have to do like 2 or 3 times a week from the office, and then you have to work from home or a remote location for the rest of the week, but it's going to get to a phase, where it's going to transit from that hybrid working policy to a more fully remote policy.
Yeah, a better policy, right? So you've mentioned a lot of things, right? But among these things, what are the necessary skills, right? You as a remote worker needs to be able to attract employers to look at your work, to pick you out of the bunch, because like you said, there's a shortage of jobs and more people in the market than the jobs, right? So what can you do to actually stand out so that you are not just left as one of the remote workers looking for jobs, but you actually have a job?
Yeah. So when it comes to skills, skills is skills. Skills you have. Everybody can be good at something.
Yeah.
It's just for you to recognize what you are actually good at and leverage on that thing, right? So now when it comes to, I don't know how in terms of the kind of audience, the majority of the audience I'm actually talking to, but I think it's mostly Africans or
mostly
Nigerians, right?
Mostly
Nigerians.
Age of 25 to 40. So let's say mostly Nigerians.
Okay. So I know that obviously I've seen that most people, when they go on these remote working platforms, they are very frustrated with the fact that, we see these remote working platforms, we go on these platforms, right?
Yeah.
And it's not, at the end of the day, it's not like so-called fully remote. At the end of the day, we see that those jobs are actually, they're saying is remote. You might have to even, you need to be actually in that location, or you need to be at least working with the hybrid working policy, right? So now, if we are talking about skills, there are some basic requirements, right, for you as an individual, when it comes to the kind of job you are looking for. So you already have some skill sets that you have been able to develop for yourself.
Yeah.
However, you need some things that could edge you, right? And now when it comes to things that could edge you, now if you are talking about a particular profession, let's say you're applying for
Let's say
I would use more,
a programmer.
Yeah, a programmer, for example. You know that sometimes when it comes to areas like this, recruiters human resource managers, they are not, they don't have time when it comes to CVs or resumes, right? So I believe what should be done here is to tailor is it tailor? Would I use the word tailor, or more your skill set has to be tailored in such a way that you are giving them what you are bringing to the table in 2 sentences, right? Mm-hmm. So what I'm trying to say there is, I've seen situations because these resumes, when you submit your resumes, it goes through what we call ATS, right? An applicant training system. Yeah. So this system actually is what kind of what am I going to use? It kind of reduces the amount of applications in such a way. Exactly. Based on the kind of jobs they are looking for, the kind of profiles they are looking for. Exactly. So one important thing is the kind of skill set that is required for a remote working job is not the same as the kind of skill set you have for a normal working from the office, right? So most people don't understand. They make this mistake because they think, okay, this is my skills, this is what I bring, this is the knowledge I have of this particular profession, right? But one thing you should also understand is when you are not tailoring your resume, you have to also factor in, also have to think about the fact that the job you're applying for is actually a remote working job, So there are some specific skills like resourcefulness, right? Things like that, when it comes to also time management, for example, communication, for example.
Communication, very
These
important.
things are skill sets that a remote worker should have, because when it comes to communication, obviously you are not in the office space, right? You will not be having that team building or team bonding that you usually have. It's more of like you're actually more of an independent worker in such a way. But still, you have to still communicate. You have to go ahead. And when there's an issue or there's a case, you have to be spontaneous enough to reach out to to your boss or to the person you're working with, just to the team, to ensure that things are done in order to meet the specific deadlines. So things like these are skills that are non-negotiable when it comes to the area of remote working.
Yes. Yes. Thank you very much. So you are saying that no matter, because remote work is not just tech, right? There's a lot that goes into remote work. You could be in finance, remote work. You could be a remote worker and be a financial advisor. You could be a financial analyst. You could be anything, right?
Yeah.
Depending, you can't be a doctor, be a remote doctor, right? But you could be a remote pharmacist, right? Whereby
Exactly.
the drugs are being sent. There's a lot of ways to actually do this, but amongst what you're saying, there are some intangible skills that are necessary for whatever profession you are, as long as you're remote. One, you have to be resourceful. You cannot wait for your HR or your manager to be on your neck, because there's nobody there with you. You are probably in your house or workspace. You have to be yourself. You have to be resourceful. You have to manage your time well. Is
Yeah.
that correct? You have
Yeah.
to.
Just to cut. Yeah, I think Kule, thanks for that. Yeah, that's actually application tracking system, not training system. Yeah, that's the application tracking system.
Yes. So, how can a Nigerian, because this is one of the, I made a video recently and a series of video actually about remote work, and one of the DMs I've been getting a lot is, okay, I'm a Nigerian. Most of these offers you are saying Nigerians cannot apply for it. If you're in Nigeria, it's a problem. You have to be outside the country to apply for it. What kind of remote work website can Nigerians find relevant remote work opportunities that they can actually apply for, that they actually have a good chance of getting, right, these jobs? It's not just applying and majority of the time they're not getting anything, but there's actually a chance for them. You understand? Because the idea of going into the end of the year is we have to find a way to make money, we have to find a way to increase our income so that by December we have something to fall back on going into next year. You understand? So do you have any options for us in that regard?
Um, yeah. First and foremost, because I know that there are a lot of remote working platforms, a lot. Even myself, sometimes I'm overwhelmed. So when you look at, and like I said, some of them, like I said earlier, some of them are not actually fully remote. When you go on some of these websites, I like telling people the honest truth, because I am that kind of person that if this is the case, you just say it as it is. Some of these remote working platforms, they are based in a location that you have to work from that location. So, like for example, I can give you some like we work remote.com, right?
Yeah.
Most of their jobs now, for example, are actually based in the US. So you have to be able to be in the
In the
US
US
for you to be able
get
to take
those
such
jobs.
kind of opportunity, right? But nobody actually mentions it. They just tell you, okay, these are jobs. I mean, when it comes specifically to remote working, they just say these are remote working opportunities. But you have to actually identify the audience that you are speaking to when it comes to this, and then make them know that, okay, this particular opportunity is actually linked for those that are actually in the US. So if you're not in the US, this might be a bit of a challenge. However, I've seen situations of people who actually had jobs from such platforms. They started working remotely, but they had to leave the country.
Yeah.
So it was more like in Nigeria, for example. I had a friend who had similar experience in the tech sector. Actually, it was a web developer. So it was more of she got the job, right? But the communication was more of, okay, we could let you work remotely for the meantime while we are working and processing your papers, right? For you to come.
Yeah.
So there are structures like this, right? There are structures like this where, but it's one in like 10 or 15 applications, right?
Yeah.
It's not very common. It's not very common. Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is, depending on the audience that you are communicating to, there are several platforms that I can recommend. Now, what I've done is I have compiled a list of my top, I would say my top 7 remote working jobs that I think people in Nigeria could take advantage of.
Yeah.
Now these jobs, these platforms, obviously, when it comes to remote working, you have to understand something that for you to be able to get what you want, there has to be a little bit of commitment from your side. There has to be a little bit of investment. That's one thing. I don't know sometimes, and there has to be a little bit of patience. I know that Nigerians are very patient people. Let me put it that way. So I know that when it comes to things like this, not all the ones that are actually some of the remote working platforms that are actually out there, not all of them actually, like I said, provide the kind of jobs you're looking for. However, there are some that are not free. You have to subscribe, right?
Yes.
So that little premium can give you your dream job. That little premium, because some people might not want to, when they go on a particular website, like for example, if you go to freelancewriting.com, these are for writers, people that are writers and editors, right? This is a platform that you could, for those that want to go more into like writing, editing, it's a very nice platform anyways, but it requires you to sign up, for a little premium. Yeah. So if you want to, I actually started with that, funny enough, when I was still studying here doing my master's. I was doing like it was like a side gig for me, like a side hustle, right? Signing up for the platform and just like a freelance work, right? Yeah, exactly. So when it comes to things like this, it's important first to understand that you cannot just jump on all the platforms.
True.
You have to be able to identify at least three of them, and then see how those 3 actually aligns to what you are actually looking for. Because if you start going on all the platforms, you will just be searching. You have to streamline your search to a particular, like to the 3 most effective ones. And for me personally, I can recommend Working Nomads.
Okay.
Working Nomads. So Working Nomads is quite very user friendly. So like I'm going to share a link to the file. I don't know. I would possibly share it with you, or
I'll spread it out.
Yeah, you can spread it across. So it's Working Nomad is actually a platform that is very broad. Like why I like that platform is because when they post the job description, they tell you if this job you can work anywhere or not.
Okay, it's all even the beginning.
So at the profile, when you go on that particular website, that's why that's why it's my favorite, because you don't have to waste your time to start searching, reading the description,
Exactly. It shows you
trying
everything
to
from the
see
start.
if the job is actually you can work from anywhere or not. It tells you straight up, this job is open to people that are in here. Maybe you are in Brazil, you are in the US. If you're in Africa, it tells you straight up, the role and everything. But when you go, you click on it, it shows you the description and gives you all the details about the job. So
Okay.
it's the platform is quite user friendly, and it's also free. This particular one is free. You don't have to subscribe, but I highly recommend it because it just saves you time when it comes to your search.
Yes,
Uh,
yes, yes.
and then I also will recommend Ladders.
Okay.
Ladders is Ladders is Ladders is actually good with people that want to, like, it's high paying, I would say, but it's not like an entry level platform.
Okay.
So it's a platform that actually uh, pays from $100,000 above. The the range, the salary range. But like I said, it's not like an entry level, so you must have had a little bit of experience in that
Experience, yes. Field.
particular profession to be able to land that job. So that's one of the remote working platform
That's one that okay.
I would also recommend. And then there's one more. I mean, that one it's something I actually discovered recently, but I think it's a platform that it will help a lot of Nigerians, because I think the person who is actually behind the scenes there is someone that is a Nigerian that has actually explored a bit more of the remote working space.
Okay.
So I would recommend is inclusivelyremote.com. Inclusivelyremote.com.
Inclusive.com.
Yeah. So that's another platform that I think, because that platform it's set up, I think, in Nigeria to be able to, to meet the needs
Of
of
Nigerians.
Nigerians.
Yeah.
So that one is more. So if you're talking about more of a global, yeah, if you're talking about a global skills, the first two I just shared
Yeah,
would be,
that's the first one.
really good. But if you are bringing in more home, then you should check
Okay.
inclusivelyremote.com.
I
Yeah.
hope you guys were jotting things down. He has given us 3 really good websites, right? Give us the first one, give us the second one, whereby the first one is for everybody all around the world. And the best part about that one is that it gives you the information, even from the beginning, it tells you whether you can get it from anywhere or it is location specific. That's the first one. The second one he said was what? He said that one is for people that have a bit of experience. So in my head, I'm thinking use the first and the third one to start life first, to at least get some experience, get some jobs under your belt, and then move into the second one, Ladders, whereby you can start getting jobs of over 100K, right? And then the best part is when he called the third one, because he said inclusively remote, right? The third one is the platform that allows you from Nigeria, right, find remote jobs, right? This is a platform that helps Nigerians in Nigeria land remote jobs that allow them get paid in dollars in different currencies. So I think it's a really good opportunity for Nigerians. So please, my brothers and sisters, write it down, check it out after today, check it out after this class, okay? So moving on to the next question, right? What would you think is an essential to every remote worker needs, right? I'm talking about regardless of your specific profession, regardless of your specific field, right? What are the tools that they are must have, right? Must haves for remote workers.
Now, when it comes to tools, it's really important because for for you to be able to work efficiently, you need these tools, right? So tools like the tools are actually specifically geared towards the kind of profession that you are actually in, right? So, for example, the basic thing is when it comes to the area of having to have like a team of people where you work with, you have to ensure that you have those tools that are easy for communication, right? So I know there are several communication platforms now. You have the Microsoft Teams, you have the Skype, you have the Slack. Most companies, this is what they use internally to boost communication. However, it's important to know that you have to be able to also have an understanding of how to work with these tools, especially if you are someone that is in the finance space, for example. Let's just now go more technical tools, right?
Yes, yes.
Like if you are someone that is you're applying as a fund accountant or a corporate accountant, or you have to have the understanding of how to work with accounting softwares, right? You have to know, you have to be proficient with things like that, how you run macros in Excel, for example, how you are able to use accounting softwares like maybe eFront, like Sage,
Yeah.
like things like this. You have to have at least, we're not saying have like the
The full
whole
knowledge,
knowledge,
but it's
but
basic. Yeah.
the basic knowledge, because these companies, they know that indeed you are bringing they are bringing you in, but there's going to be trainings that are going to, like, in-house trainings, where they will build up your skills, what you already know, right? But
Yeah.
first, if we go back to the beginning of the session, first, what differentiates you is
Wrong.
what
Yeah.
you have that distinguishes you. What kind of what edges you from the rest of the people is how proficient you are with several things, with your tools, with several other items that are very important when it comes to working remotely. So like it depends on the particular profession that you are in, but you have
Yes.
to be able to think about it. If you're applying for a particular role, make sure that you have like the basic understanding of what is necessarily needed for that role for you to be able to get over the line when it comes to tools, when it comes to areas that you think will put you over the line or edges you, amongst competitors, because it's getting really competitive, right?
Yes.
So that's what I think when it comes to that area.
Okay. So, what are the common challenges, right, that comes with remote work? You've mentioned a few so far, but I've noticed that a lot more people have come in to the session since we've talked. So, I would like for us to go over some of these major challenges again, right? And before that, it's gone over my head. I'm sorry. So, I have to ask you, the first website for remote work, what was the name of the website again?
The first website actually mentioned was Working Nomads.
Yeah, working nomads, yes. Working nomads. So you mentioned working nomads, ladders,
Ladders, yeah,
and
and inclusively remote.
inclusively remote. So people,
Yeah.
please hear that. Working nomads, ladders, and inclusively remote. So as we're asking, how's the challenges been so far? What has been the major challenges with remote work so far?
Um, it's quite challenging. Let me give you an example, actually. It was an experience, not even an example. Now, in 2022, right, I was working here in Luxembourg, right, for a fund administrator. So I think it was 2021, more or less, when we
Okay.
were still in that
Yeah,
COVID
that COVID
era.
recovery phase.
Yeah, exactly. So I had the opportunity to come back to Nigeria for a few months, right? And I had the possibility of working remotely because then most companies were a bit flexible with the hybrid working, remote working policy, because they knew that there was a serious pandemic. Everyone they needed the time to, be away with their family, and also have the possibility to be more flexible and working from their, instead of working from their resident location, they can work from other locations, right?
Yes.
So I had the possibility of coming to Nigeria during that period for a period of 3 months thereabout. Now, one of the challenges I experienced was with our network.
Oh yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
that part is one of the issues, and that's the more reason why I think when it comes to remote working, sometimes in Africa, in the African continent, we are still pushing, trying to get there, because there are still some, in as much that we want to do that, we want to work remotely, there are still some areas that needs to be fixed, right? So I was juggling between Warri, Port Harcourt, Lagos.
I know the story, brother.
Looking for internet.
I suffer it too.
So it was a serious challenge, because some of the software I was working with it required me to get on the cloud, and some of the reports I was actually compiling actually required me to be more or less available to ensure that things are done the right way. Now, I was not available, but the only way I could do things was remotely, right?
Yes.
But the point was, when I started having these internet challenges, it actually made me more inefficient in my work, right? Because I started, piling up works. So something I was supposed to get done at this period was now piling up because of the bad network, So why am I saying this? When I look at the African continent, I can only mention maybe 2 or 3 countries at the moment that I can say, okay, when it comes to the area of internet, they are quite
standard, yeah.
Standard and good. But one thing we have to understand is some of these softwares or some of these applications, they are very heavy. So it takes a lot of data, So we need to be able to, and like I said, a place like Warri, for example, I don't think they have such kind of, imagine you taking your laptop and you're moving from trying to see where the signal strength is stronger. It was a very amazing experience, I'll put it that way. But that was one of the challenges as a remote worker I experienced, right? Compared to, that's what made me realize that, of course, even if we are landing the job from the African perspective, we have to ensure that we have stability, because it's going to affect your efficiency at the end of the day, right? Because I understand how the people in the Western world, how they think when it comes to the area of remote work, especially even me working in the office space too, people that I work with a lot of people, and I know that the remote working style of work, there are still there's a pro and a con to it, right?
Yes.
Because if you are someone that is actually working remotely, your team has to trust that if you say you will deliver this at this time, you will deliver it, right? And it's actually important because it has to do with deliverables that are going to the client. A client will not want to hear that for example, is expecting for you to send out a report as agreed in the SLA of your agreement, right? Yeah. And then you are not sending it 2 days after because of power supply or because of network issue.
Nobody wants to listen to that.
Nobody will listen to that because you get paid for the job.
Actually,
you see. So it's important that these are some of the challenges, especially in Africa. That is one part. Then when it comes to the remote working space, this is something that is, like I said, only started 2 or 3 years ago, becoming prominent. So it's not it's not a, it's not a particular thing that started like long time ago. So there are still some areas that still needs to be fixed. When it comes to, it's not perfect yet.
Yes.
But and that's why there are several conferences, papers, things that people are now coming up with to really promote the remote working environment, as well as identify the lapses that are in these in working remotely, and try to see how they can bridge the gap to ensure that people can do it from anywhere around the world without any issue. So yeah, that's it basically.
Thank you so much for that. You actually brought a lot of things to perspective, because this network issue you talked about actually played me same time actually last year, right? Totally, because my family lives in Wari, right?
Yeah.
So Okoko there, for me to get network to post a video or to come on live, bro, I have to travel to either my friend's house or I go to my house in another town, right? Where I could actually
Yeah.
have not perfect network. It's still going to break. It's still going to be slow, but at least you understand. And it is very frustrating with
It is.
work,
It is. It is.
especially because
I
first the
had to
client
cut
does
my
not
trip
care.
short. I had to
Yes, it
cut my
would.
trip
It
short
would.
because
It would.
it was already affecting my deliverables, and
Yes.
of
The
course my
client does
superior
not
was
care
already
because
like,
it's not his
yeah,
business. It's not your client's
exactly,
fault. Nothing concerns your client. Your client wants what he wants as at the time you both agree to deliver. It's
exactly,
simple, but I understand. So it's one of those things that needs to be fixed.
yeah,
Luckily, though, there is Starlink. There's also fiber that is actually helping,
helping,
right? Over
yeah,
time, better alternatives will continue to come into play, right? So the all hope is not lost yet, right? And for power supply, at least now there's solar options, right, apart from the generator. So over time, right, it is getting better, right, for remote workers,
yeah,
right? So for someone in that's going into remote work, right, what are professional developments that the person needs to get on, right? So that he actually continues to evolve with this, because like you said, it's a pretty new sector. It's just around 3 to 4 years old, right? Started around late 2020, early 2021, and this is just 2024. So there's still a long way to go, right? And it's something that will evolve over time, and obviously in the next 10 to 20 years be a multi-trillion-dollar industry, right? So how can you position yourself so that when that time comes, you are not left in the background, right? You actually continue to run with the leaders in the industry, so that in the next 5, 10 years, right, you yourself, you're not just a remote worker, right? But you are doing a lot better, right? You've made a lot of money, or you've either created an agency out of it, right? So how can you position yourself so you do not become the forgotten heroes of the new big thing?
yeah. So positioning yourself, it's really very important, and I think um, it's one of the next big thing, like the remote working thing, because, like I said, the future of the job market right now is going into that phase where, people, we don't even need to be in the office space anymore, right? People would rather be in, in the comfort of their home,
Your home,
at a
homes,
different location, you know, working and delivering. However, like I said, there are lapses. But how do you set yourself, for such change, for such transition and such change? Is by recognizing what are the areas that what are the tools, or what are the kind of conferences that are actually um,
beneficial,
promoting,
necessary.
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
promoting such kind of movement, right? So you have to be able to identify. There are several of them. Like, I know there was, I think a few days ago, I was making a research, and I saw that there's what we call the Nomad Summit, right? So there's a Nomad Summit, there's a working remote summit. There's another one that's happening in October, I think. It's in the UK, and it's more of it's a conference that is held by some of these top remote experts in Stanford University. So these are important. If you want to get on this trend, it's one thing to say, I want to make the money, I want to earn the money, I want to, I just want to start, I don't want too much talk. But it's another thing to recognize that there are some things that are non-negotiable. There are some things that you need to set yourself up for before getting to that step of, because if you don't have those things, or you don't even recognize those things, or you don't even understand what it means, if you don't even understand what are the challenges, what are the barriers that are affecting remote working, like we just shared some of the challenges, right? If you don't understand those things, or you don't recognize those things, you are just all about the money. How do you make the money if you don't know? It's like you are trying to, before you start eating the food, you are looking at the top, looking at how tasty it is. You are okay with what is you are seeing at the top, but you have not even gone deep to see
what's inside.
What is inside. So it's important for people to look at the opportunities for knowledge when it comes to things like this, and then what you can also do is recognize those opportunities and network, because one of the ways you can actually, like most of these conferences, they are done online, not just physical location. That's why even everything now has changed. So it's not like you can be here and attend a major conference in the US. I remember last year I had this Forbes BLK conference.
Yes.
I didn't have the opportunity to go to the US, Atlanta, to be a part of it, right? But I had the possibility of joining virtually, So that is where we are getting to, where you can, from any part of the world, you can actually, and for these things, you get certificate of participation, certificate of, these are things that once you get those things, it becomes like, it adds to your portfolio. So there are several summits. Maybe after this live, I will share also with you the link to some of all these opportunities that people can actually go on the website, register, and also be a part of it. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. Right? That was so. What do you see in the future of remote work, especially for us Nigerians, for us Africans? How do we see that?
Like I said, I think remote working is the future. Like I said, I believe that it's actually going to transit from being a hybrid working model to a more fully remote working model.
Okay.
Because right now, I don't know so much about how the Nigerian market is when it comes to remote working, because I know when it comes to remote working, there are a lot of factors you have to also take into consideration in terms of policies.
Sure.
Like for example, a company that is established in a particular location, for example, the client might not be comfortable with data, or you sharing their data in a different location, sure, for example. So there's a data protection agreement that has to be signed between the company and the client, because a client will not be happy if his work is being outsourced to a different location, right, without his knowledge, because we are dealing with data, right, confidential information. Something might happen, there might be security issues, and this information is being hacked, and then the client might lose millions of dollars or millions of euros, right? So these are areas that could really affect some remote working opportunities going forward. But however, there are several people that are working behind the scenes to ensure that they are bridging this gap and see how there's a smooth transition. Because I believe that it will get to a phase where people will not necessarily need to even travel from leave. They don't necessarily need to leave Nigeria to say they want to go out there, because it felt good actually working from Nigeria and earning money in foreign currency. It felt really good in the sense that Luxembourg, if someone that really knows a bit more about Luxembourg, it's quite a high cost country in terms of the cost of living, right? So imagine you are earning a kind of a good minimum wage, right? And you are spending it in a low cost country as a remote worker.
Yeah.
That is really good, right? However, like I said, most companies are very particular about this now because of the fact that some of the clients they are kind of concerned about data protection and security of their information. You see, so but in summary, I think the future is actually getting into fully remote, and it's going to be in that direction in the near couple of years.
Thank you so much. So we'll take some questions from the audience before we end tonight's live. Do you have any questions on remote work that you would like to ask Mr. Gabriel here? He's here and is willing to answer all your questions. I've been seeing some comments for this. Someone's even asking if we have a class for beginners. I'm not the expert on remote work. He is the expert, so if there is a class, he would be the one to tell us, not me. But I don't know if he has the time for that. So, Mr. Gabriel, is there a class for beginners, or I don't know, or that will be arranged?
Yeah, we can arrange. We could arrange something. Yeah, we can always arrange something. So, I would speak with my boss here,
we'll
and we can come back to you on that.
No problem. And someone said the Nigerian market seems to be gearing towards working from the office since recovery from the COVID-19 years. Well, what do you think about that, Mr. Gabriel? I know you said you're not as in tune with the Nigerian market, right?
No,
But
yeah,
I see it as an
actually, I'm
hybrid.
quite surprised because
right?
I think it should have been the opposite.
Actually,
Because I do have a few friends that I know are working in Nigeria, in Lagos precisely, that are actually currently operating the hybrid model, right? So it's not like they are working 100% from the office space. They are working also from home, like a few days from home and a few days from the office. However, I think for some companies, especially when you are being onboarded newly, sometimes it can be very difficult to work from home.
to get this
Because they would expect that you need some time to really understand the process that the company is operating with. So you actually have to be from the place of the office, and there's what we call on the job training, right? Where you have someone physically like your body with you, showing you some of the things that and how it operates. So like I said, I'm not really so familiar with the Nigerian market when it comes to remote working, but I would imagine that for the Nigerian-based companies, I would imagine that it's something that they should be building towards. But I think the remote working policy is more efficient with companies that are more international, right?
Yes.
Rather than like corporate companies or government parastatals, and all that.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. Are there any other questions? Do we have any other concerns? I'm waiting for questions before we end tonight's session. So before, as we wait for questions, do remember to.
Wale is saying there are a few that have the luxury of the hybrid model. Yeah, that's true. That's I mean, like for me basically here, I operate the hybrid model, right? So at the moment I'm shuffling between working from home and working from the office. But obviously, for most companies, at the beginning of each financial year or cycle, you have to sign what we call the hybrid working policy. So that policy actually details that you cannot there's a specific you cannot work more than, depending on the companies, but that's a policy details that you cannot work more than a particular remote location, more than one particular remote location. So depending on which company it is and where you are working from, but yeah, that is what I think when it comes to that. So hybrid working policy, it's really more common than even the fully remote working policy, because it's like you have the full from the office, and now from that working fully from the office, it transited to hybrid working, where it's partially from the office and partially from home. So now where it's going to is it's moving towards that direction of completely working from
remote.
from a remote location. Yeah.
Okay. So Mrs. Adosa is asking, what are the niche or skills to be learned to be able to work remotely? Right. I know Mr. Gabriel has mentioned this before in the video, and he actually went in depth in that. So maybe you could just list them, and then Mr. Doza, you could rewatch the video so you could actually get all the information on that. So Mr. Gabriel, can you please quickly relist them?
So
Yeah.
so um so what are the niche of skills to be learned to be able to work remotely? So like I said earlier, like when it comes to skills, communication is important, right? You have to be able to communicate, in terms of, and time management also is important, because like you don't want a situation where there's an urgency in your workspace, and the job has to be done. And maybe for some reason there's an issue with your internet, or there's an issue, the ability for you to spot, to identify that thing ahead of time and communicate to your team members, right? So they can cover for you is very important. Right. So these are some skills that I think is important when it comes to remote working, because as a remote worker, you are mostly independent. You are mostly by yourself, doing your thing, and it can be a bit distracting sometimes, where especially those that have families. You have children jumping all over the place. So you have to be able to have your own workstation somewhere in your house, where you know that you shut the whole place down, and ensure that you can focus on the job, because no client will be hearing the fact that your children has been with you and you didn't have the time
Or somebody
to get the job
sick, kids in the hospital, they don't
exactly,
care about that stuff.
So yeah, these are some of the things you should have as the basics, like the fundamentals, when it comes to remote working. Because one thing you should understand is the way it works with remote working is completely different from the way it works working from a physical location in the office space. Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much. Please remember to follow him on Instagram. He is also a financial educator. He's a financial illustrator, and he teaches about financial literacy to us here in Africa, and also to our Nigerian people in Europe, also people in Luxembourg. Teaches you about different accounts and how to make money online, both using remote work and normal financial literacy methods, right, with savings and investment. So remember to follow him. It's Mr. Gabriel. Thank you so much for having
so much.
us today. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much, sir.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Any closing remarks from you before we go?
What I can say is, of course, when it comes to remote working, patience is always key. I know I understand like the situation with the country, like Nigeria at the moment, when it comes to the economic situation, and obviously there are a lot of people who are trying to, make money as much as they can, you know, considering the fact that a lot of people graduate every year, and sometimes it's quite challenging to find a job, and like inflation is like ripping off a lot of people. So, imagine you being in a place and trying to see how you can, you know, take advantage of the several
Opportunities.
opportunities
Yeah.
that are out there. So remote working is one of them. Like Feji said earlier, you just have to take advantage of it by, first and foremost, understanding that there's a basics. There are things that you should have as the basics, and then from there you can then build on top of that, because it's more of, you have that basics, you have the understanding, you know what you are going to, you don't have to go on the platform and start wasting your time. You know exactly what
you want,
you want.
to achieve.
Exactly. So you just go there and, get it done. And one thing I forgot to mention earlier was the fact that when it comes to your resume, it has to be tailored in such a way that you don't put too much. Like, that's one thing I know. That's why it's important to see a resume expert, someone that actually is experienced with dealing with resumes, someone that is really good with that, because that thing can actually differentiate you between someone that is searching for the job and you yourself that is also searching for the job. Because these days, I know that most recruiters, HR managers, they 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 have so much applications that they don't have time to start looking into details. So you have to have a you have to market yourself in such a way that you know what you are selling, you know what you are bringing to the table, and you have to bring it, you have to so yeah, that's what I think. Um, just patience, just be patient. Like I said, you take at least three of these platforms. Don't be overwhelmed by looking at all of them. Just take at least three of them, and streamline your search to the three of them. There are so many of them that you can get like lost by just looking around, and it's not what you really want. So you just find the best three for you. I've recommended the ones I think are quite efficient based on my research. And then you can filter by your roles. These platforms have filters. Like, you just filter by what kind of profession or what kind of role you are looking at. And then, you just start your search. And your journey starts from there. So I think, yeah, just keep at it and just be patient, and you are on course to land that dream job of yours, one step away.
Thank you so much for today. Thank you so much for laying so much knowledge, so much understanding. We thank you so much for coming, because now we have a better understanding of what remote work is, how to land our dream jobs, what the employers are looking for, how to pattern our credentials, our CVs, so that it gives us an edge over other job seekers too, and even the different types of remote jobs and the different niches that are available for us, as well as options for where we can get these jobs, both those people looking for jobs for Nigerians in Nigeria, all around the world, and as well as high paying remote jobs too. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. That's been
Thank you so much,
it's been
sir.
an honor to be with you. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Have a great evening, sir. Cheers.
Thank you so much, sir. Cheers.
All right, sir.